All right, this thing always takes a while, but I'm going to operate under the premise that we are live. Good evening, Man Cave Sports back to recap the Timberwolves versus Thunder game one from last evening, a game that saw the Thunder win 114-88, a game in which the Timberwolves were ahead by 4 at the half. So, tale of two halves, a lot of different reasons you could pin on why the Timberwolves lost. And we'll go around and talk about those. I'm going to start out with the turnovers. The Timberwolves had 19 turnovers to OKC's 12, and those turnovers led to 31 points. Obviously, that's significant. The Timberwolves had 0 fast break points, very significant. And I will say this, I wasn't horribly upset about the passing. The Timberwolves, their turnovers were created by steals. Out of the 19 turnovers that they had, 13 were via steals. So um, obviously, when they would collapse or double team on Julius, Cat, they were having difficulty hanging onto the ball. Nas had 3 turnovers in his time. So obviously that played a big factor. I know there's 4 or 5 that I identified. I think you guys probably would say a lot of the ones that I texted to you guys today would account for a lot of that, but we'll go around the horn and get everybody's take on what contributed to this loss. So, Ramon, I'll start with you. Obviously, a lot has been talked about today all over cable TV, sports cable TV, the internet, etc., on the officiating and the fouls.
Yeah. hmm
I'll let you start out with that and tell me what factor that played. Now, obviously, like I alluded to, there's a handful of factors that we'll discuss here, but that one seems to be a lightning rod for a lot of people around the NBA, fans, even some media.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. It's the national media, the international media, the local media. They are hating on SGA and OKC for the foul merchantry or the foul baiting that he is known for. But real quick, before I get into that, though, I want to take a quick deep dive into some of the stats. In terms of fouls, total fouls called, there were 22 fouls called on each team. The so you could argue there that the calls were somewhat even, right? Free throw differential. The OKC Thunder shot 26 free throws, the Wolves shot 21. It looks like SGA got 14 of those free throw attempts. It's hard to watch SGA play because he is an amazing player. His mid-range shot is incredible. His handles, his first step, his body control, his footwork. He's a special player, and he really doesn't need to do, I think, what he does. Basically, he uses his offhand to like clear quick space, then he makes his move, and once he feels any contact, he flails, he throws his hands in the air, he screams, or he falls down. And we got a very good look, up close and personal look at that last night, and it was very frustrating to watch. And the sad part is it's the playoffs. B Naughty, you and I have been talking about it for a long time that they're typically allow for more physical play. OKC appeared to get away with physical defense on the perimeter, but when it comes to SGA, you just can't touch him. And from what I understood throughout these playoffs, he wasn't getting as good a whistle as he had during the regular season. However, last night it looked like a preseason game or a regular season game in which the refs were trying to like say, hey, we're not going to allow any touching at all, really just on him. It's just frustrating to watch. It's like watching James Harden reincarnated before they changed the rules because he was selling fouls, flopping. Joel Embiid's another guy that likes to do that. CP3 is another guy. It's I've heard a lot of people talk that, oh, the league doesn't want to have like these small market teams get into the finals because it won't be good for ratings. I'm not as concerned about that as I am about this brand of basketball because it's not really basketball. It's just foul baiting. And again, it's just not fun to watch. And I think he's good. He's a great enough player. He's skilled enough that if the refs didn't let him get away with it, then he'd adjust and he'd still be a dominant player, but it just makes the game easy on him. And I don't think some people say it's rigged, it's rigged. I don't believe it's rigged. I think I mean, maybe some things are rigged. Sorry, I see Bianati looking at me. Some things may be rigged, but I don't think it's in this case, I don't think that it is. I think the refs are just lazy. They're basing their calls off of reactions rather than what they're seeing. And they're seeing his reaction, not seeing what the contact is. And so it's really frustrating. That said, though, I just want to point out a couple of things here. The Wolves or OKC took 50 shots at the basket last night. The Wolves took 23 shots at the basket. I think the Wolves like shot spread about 60+% of their shots were three-pointers last night. Just a quick thing. Nas, Nah, Dante, I think 77% of their shots were three-pointers. So guys were just not going to the rim. I mean, credit to the OKC defense, but the Wolves have to figure out how to get downhill, Anthony Edwards included.
So we talked about, I talked about the 19 turnovers. You talked about the officiating. I would say if you want to pin it on one thing, it'd be nearly impossible. I think it's a accumulation of all things that we're going to discuss here. So a lot of people want to blame the officiating. I get it, but do you think, Ramon, in your opinion, did the officiating cost them the game last night?
It didn't help, but I think the difference is that the Wolves role players couldn't hit a shot to save their lives, whereas the OKC Thunder's role players got very hot from the outside. Caruso, I think Isaiah Joe might have hit a couple. Aaron Wiggins, I think, hit a couple, and I think Chet hit a couple. And the Wolves just outside of Julius Randle and Ant I think hit a couple too. Nobody could hit a shot to save their lives. I think they shot what 29% from three, but I think the bench was much worse than that. So I don't think the fouls they were a problem, but the fact that the Wolves couldn't hit open shots and the fact that they turned the ball over a lot, their shooting couldn't make up for all those turnovers, and that was it.
All right, which brings me to our next topic. Mr. Steve, talk about the bench, and Razor alluded to some of it, but obviously Chris Finch runs eight deep in general. He might put in a Jalen Clark or a TSJ on occasion, but this team throughout the playoffs has been pretty consistent with that top eight with Nas, Dante DiVincenzo, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker coming off the bench. Talk about their performance last night.
It's not just a performance last night. It's been their performance this entire playoff run, right? They've been disappointing this entire. One of our strengths of our team has been Dante, Nas, and we've had some questions about Nickeil, but he's had some good spots and he's generally done his job when he's been in there. But they have not. The bench really hasn't shown up these playoffs. You had a little bit of a splash from Na in the last series. We had, the one day where everybody could hit everything against the Lakers, right? It didn't matter. We were shooting 50+% from three, right? It didn't matter who you put out there. That hoop was as big as my pickup. Everybody was hitting it. But generally speaking, our bench has been, the 3D bench has been disappointing. Last night they were like 5 for I think 38 here when it came from three. You know, uh, Reed -21, DiVincenzo -20, Walker -14. The three of them combined for 21 points total. We need one of these guys to, they need to be double digits, right? They 10, 15, and then one of them pops out a 20 spot because they get a little bit hot. We haven't really seen that at all this playoff run, and it's gotten in their heads. You can see it. My favorite hockey term, they're gripping that stick pretty tight. And then I think the other part of it is too, is that they are not, Finch isn't doing anybody any favors right now with this offensive set where we've got one guy dribbling the ball for 8 seconds and then everybody else is standing on the 3-point line, right? You got four guys standing on the 3-point line. It's like I put in my blog post, right? Everybody else is like trying to grab popcorn from the front row because they're all standing around watching. It's that doesn't lead to these guys being able to be effective. They're effective when they can get out and run. They get out in transition. They get some pace. They get some flow. They get the ability to They can slash the hoop. They can spot up threes on transition. This is when these guys are deadly. When the ball gets moving, they can get into a rhythm, especially Nas, he gets into a rhythm and he'll go for like five, he'll go 5 for 8 or something like that from three. You get Dante out and running and, with his jumping ability and whatnot, Nikhil, he gets out and running and he can create. But right now with the stagnant offense and zero fast break points, zero. And it wasn't just that we completely sucked at fast break. We weren't pushing the pace at all. These guys need to get out and run. They need to be able to bring that energy, and we're not seeing it. So it's a combination of they're in their own heads at this point in time. They're not confident in their game. They're worried about making every shot instead of just letting the game come to them a little bit. And then, two, the offensive set and the lack of pace, it doesn't allow them to work through it, right? Finch wants to be that guy to let his coach, let his players work through it. Well, you're not going to do that when they just they play defense for 20 seconds and they walk up the court and stand on the 3-point line and just stare at each other. That doesn't work. You got to get them moving.
All right, which leads me to our next topic in regards to the loss, Chris Finch. And I know, Mr. Naughton, you are a Chris Finch apologizer, or you're a disciple. How's that? Is that a little better?
Wow. I like the other one.
Oh,
Well,
I'm going to mute myself so I don't overtalk you here because I read the blog because I can't.
well, obviously Finchie didn't have very good moments yesterday. I mean, it's a frustrating game that I've seen, even more frustrating than the game one that we went to. Coach D-Bag over there, on the other hand, he knew exactly what was going on. He knew that they were going to get the calls. The crowd is like a college atmosphere. He just kept going towards the basket, doing the thing. Finchie, I mean, like right away, Rudy with those two falls, like boom, boom. You knew what was going to happen. And just as Finchie has been saying, there's an old thing that from about February going around where he's like, yeah, it's a tough team to play. I mean, they foul every time on defense and nothing gets called, and you can't breathe on Shea. Otherwise, at the free throw line, it's a tough thing to overcome. I'm not giving him a free pass with that because I'm definitely on the. It was obvious right away what was happening. And Finchie, a couple timeouts, TSJ and Jalen Clark. It was nice to see Jalen Clark out there. But, I mean, how do you combat that? I mean, it's a tough deal. And I'm not going to let him off the hook. It's just, when you're turning the ball over that many times, and as Mr. Steve alluded to, having 4 guys out on the perimeter, taking ill-advised shots from 3, that they really aren't the best shots to make. I mean, it's with us, our offense, when we get that third pass or even that fourth pass, that's where the shot is. I would have loved for Finchie to maybe drive towards the lane, get inside like Razor said earlier. It'd be obvious to the national audience if you're doing the same type of things that Coach D was doing and you're not getting the calls. I mean, it'd be a little bit more obvious. But overall, he's got to make an adjustment. I mean, he did in game 2 against the Warriors. Michael?
All right, we talked a little bit about some of these players, but let's throw the names out real quick and try to keep it somewhat brief since I think we've talked about all of them at least a little bit. And since Brett's not here, I'll talk about Conley. Surprisingly, I know he only shot 2 for 8, but one thing I did notice, he had the best plus minus of anybody on the team last night. Not that means, a whole lot. However, he had no turnovers in his time out there, which was huge. And like I said, the other players, I mean, it was pretty well spread out, but I think Jules had 5, and had 4. Nas had 3. Was it Nikhil or somebody else had 3 as well? Jaden had 3, and Jaden, quite frankly, got taken out of his game last night when he picked up those 2 quick fouls because he came right out of the gate and scored the first 5 points. So Jaden was definitely, I can't remember how many minutes he played. I want to say somewhere around 28,
24.
which is 24. So, I mean, Jaden only being half the game when he's, and the same with Rudy. Rudy obviously didn't have a great night, but Rudy was in foul trouble as well. When your 2 best defenders are sitting on the bench, as long as they were last night, and your bench players aren't stepping up. But I Conley, I don't know if they need to give him a little more run just to run the offense a little more efficiently, because there were times last night where Jules or Ant were sitting there, and anytime they got double teamed, if they didn't get the ball off, they were getting it stolen. So Conley, maybe give him a few more minutes to calm the offense down and run it tomorrow. But we talked about him a little bit. Talk about Dante Razor, because Steve kind of alluded to it too. He's been a bit of a disappointment, to say the least,
Yeah,
during this whole playoff stretch.
for sure. And I've been shouting his praises all season long, right? Even when I think he had a stretch early in the season in which he started slow, wasn't playing well, and then he found himself. In these playoffs, he hasn't shot well. Let's just be real. He's shooting 31.7% overall, 25% from three. That's not the guy that who played for the New York Knicks last year in the playoffs, who went nuclear in the playoffs last year. Granted, he had a different role, but still, to see him shooting 25% is majorly disappointing. Also, well, I will say, even though he struggled with his shot, he has typically found other ways to help the team win. He's a good rebounding guard. He gets steals, he gets assists. He even was blocking shots, I think, early in the playoffs. But I feel like outside of games, maybe 4 and 5 against Golden State, I mean, he hasn't been as much of a playmaker defensively. And frankly, he was out of position a lot last night, I thought, defensively. He just was slow on rotations. He wasn't in his stance properly, and guys would just go blow right by him. And it seems like he's committing a lot of fouls and not a whole lot of minutes. It just looking back at like the entire playoffs, I mean, pretty much commits 4 fouls in almost every game. If and three's on the good side for him. So he hasn't really brought other things to the table. And as B Naughty, Mr. Steve mentioned, the shot selection, he was 1 for 6 at one point, and then all of a sudden he jacked up a 28 to 30 footer with zero ball movement and a ton of time on the shot clock. And I was like, man, you don't do that unless you're 5 out of 6 or 4 out of 6, not 1 out of 6. You got to move the ball around a little bit. And so I keep waiting. I keep thinking that he's going to turn it around because he's such a gamer and he's such a winner. But I'm starting to wonder if we might have to wait till next season for him to get it going, because it's just far too many bad shooting nights. Mike.
Yeah, as Apollo Creed once said, I think it was in Rocky 3, there is no tomorrow. So can only wait so long for Dante to show up. All right, Mr. Steve, talk about Nas, because I was reading before this series about how well he played against the Thunder this year. And obviously, I think a couple of those games were without Rudy, so he got a little more run. But talk about Nas last night, especially. Obviously, we know it's been kind of a mixed bag throughout the playoffs. He's had some moments in the fourth quarter in the first two series, but last night, I got to be honest, that's probably as bad as I've seen him look throughout the playoffs this year.
Nas is another one of these guys who's not really shown up in this playoff run. Last night, he was 1 for 11, 0 for 7 from three. He had eight, he chipped in on the boards, 8 boards, 3 turnovers though. Really, negative. I think he was a -21 or something. Really, really ineffective last night. But he's been ineffective for a while. He's made 1 3-point shot in the last 3 playoff games. He hasn't, that's going back to game 4 of the Golden State series. He's only made double digits in the playoffs as far as points goes, twice or 3 times, excuse me. He had the one explosion against LA. And then he reached 20 points in the first game against LA. He did all right first game against Golden State. He was one of our bright spots in that loss, but he's just been pedestrian is not even the right word. Like his turnover total right now for the playoffs is 20. He's got 20 turnovers in the playoffs so far. That's 11. That's 11, 12 games. He's averaging just over between 1 and 2 turnovers a game easily. when he gets to the line, his free throw shooting's good, but he doesn't get to the line that much. He's not driving the lane like he used to, and this is where this is where the pace of the game, letting him get involved in the game and speeding up, so that then he can create a little more offense for himself, get downhill, use some of those skills that he's unique to have. Right, a guy that size that dribbles the way he does and can move against these other when you've got Hartenstein and Chet out there, what a better way to make neutralize those guys than let Nas drive right at them and get them into foul trouble, right? Go right after them and get them into issues. Have a little bit more flow and a little bit more pace. But yeah, Nas is just not, you know, he's one of these enigmas in this playoff run where he's just not getting into the flow. He's not able to get his head wrapped around it. Again, 3 games now, one made 3. That's rough for him. That's one's a thing, two's and three's a oh crap, and we're at the oh crap point with Nas.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt.
Can I ask a follow? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you mind if I ask a follow-up question to Mr. Steve about Nas Reed? How much pressure do you think his contract situation is putting on him? And then how much money is he costing himself with his struggles? I mean, do you think it's going to hurt him a lot?
I think it's going to hurt him because last year, 6 man of the year, and some of the play that he had during the regular season, especially when Rudy was out, people were looking at him like, dude, this guy should be starting on other teams. This playoff run, though, he's looking like, yeah, he probably is a 6th guy, right? Maybe some teams that don't have bigs that can roll. All right, you might want to bring him in, or you use him as a true 4. Don't put him out there at the 5. Use him as a true 4 for somebody that needs more size. Like LA, like Golden State, guys like that just don't have that combination. But no, he's costing himself a bunch of money. But I don't know that that's really weighing on his mind. I think for him is that he knows he's in a funk. He's stuck in that part of his brain right now. I don't think he's thinking so much about the money and the contract. I think he's more thinking that I'm not playing the way I should be. I feel like I'm letting my team down. I'm putting more pressure on other guys. So he's creating that stress for just the play of the game.
Yeah, and they definitely need him to show up as well as Rudy. Rudy got into foul trouble. The way Hartenstein and Chet played last night, it's going to be I'm not going to be a long series. It's going to be a short series if we don't, if they don't do something about that soon. Speaking of which, talk about Rudy, Brian, and his performance.
I love it. Everybody knows I'm a Finchy guy, and I don't know, a defender, apologist, definitely not disciple. Let's not go there. And everybody knows I'm a rude doggy guy. I admire that guy. He's the only Frenchman, or one of the only Frenchmen in history that can defend anything. I mean, and I admire that. But I just, when they have good games and Finchy's out coaching everybody and Rude Dog's just like on fire, Michael never gives me those questions in. It's always after a shit stomping game. So, Rudy, I thought he looked pretty aggressive and looked like he might be a factor right away. But that reffing and just smashing him with those 2 quick fouls. I mean, other than the hot potato on that one possession where he ended up with the foul, it's how do you play against that? And then they took Rudy out right away after 2 fouls. And when he got back in there, he was kind of playing cat defense because he knew it was coming. He just kind of wasn't himself. And I think that's why Finchy just decided not to mess with it anymore in the 4th. I watched the Stifle Towers post-game interview, and you can tell when he's going, but you can tell in between all the accenting, you can tell that he's pretty upset and irate and pissed about the officiating. And he handled it the right way. You could just tell in his demeanor, that's what was on his mind. But he just kept repeating, and I heard it like 4 times. When we get a foul, we got to go to the next basket. We get in the next play. What can we do? We can't get down on ourselves. But that was kind of his French protest to the egregious reffing last night. And how do you get going? Those 2 quick fouls. I mean, the game was already, everybody in America knew what was going to happen right there in the first 5 minutes. Hopefully Rude Dog comes back. let's see.
All right. Last player we'll talk about, and I was going to talk about him. I talked a little bit about Conley, but I'll keep it real quick because you guys did talk about Nikhil. And to piggyback off the Ramon, what do you think that his play in the playoffs here is going to do for his free agency this summer? Because he's somebody that I think he's an unrestricted. I think he's on the last year of his contract, but I would say with his performance so far in the playoffs, and I mean, perhaps there's still time to turn it around, he might cost himself a bag. Just throwing it out there. You guys don't have to answer it. I'll do a few last questions and then we'll get out of here because I do want to watch this Knicks and Pacers game. Knicks are up, I think by 4 or 5 right now, about midway through the third. I'll go to you with this one, Razor. Talk about SGA getting the MVP today. I know there were a lot of people that thought Joker should have gotten it. A lot of criticism towards SGA for what happened last night, which, I mean, you can get mad at him all you want, but ultimately the onus is on the officiating. But talk about him getting the MVP today and the reaction of that.
I was just hard on him, right? I ripped on him for his style of play. Um, but I mean, I can't argue the call. I think he deserved to be the MVP. He's the best player on a 68 win team. And he plays defense. He's a good defender. He's a playmaker on defense. 32.7 points a game, 5 rebounds, 6.4 assists. I mean, and talk about efficiency, 51.9% from the field for a guard. That's
Yeah.
insane. And again, like most players with that type of offensive ability, they don't play the kind of defense that he does. And yes, I will say, and this may sound like a contradiction, I do believe Jokic is the best player in the world, but I do think that SGA deserved the MVP award.
Yeah. And it's a team sport at the end of the day that's going to play a lot into it. You don't see the MVP in the NFL come off of a team that was ass. I mean, think about it. Adrian Peterson was an exception. Not only was he a running back, but he played for a 10-6 team. So it's very rare not to see somebody do that. I think a strong case could have been made for Joker, but I'm not going to dispute the fact or the voters that voted him. I think he's deserving. Right now, with all the raw emotions about last night's game, it's easy to, dump on it. But at the end of the day, he definitely earned it.
Yeah.
All right. Got 2 more questions. I'm going to go. I'm going to go with Mr. Naughton on this one. Is the OKC defense as good as advertised?
Sure looked like it last night, didn't it? I mean, as Mr. Steve and I were talking about earlier, what was it? 13 of those turnovers were steals that turned into points. Weak side, they sure brought it last night. And as I said earlier, that arena, I guess, is just absolutely nasty, like a college atmosphere. And that's got to let them pin their ears back a little bit. I'm still going to go. That officiating set the tone right away. It allowed them to attack. And then we came unglued in that environment and started turning the ball over at any moment possible, taking weak shots. If they do it again, I'll agree that it's pretty dominant. But we went to that game 1. We got destroyed at Golden State, or here against Golden State. Let's just see what happens here in the next game.
No doubt, no doubt. One game does not a series make, as we all learned. I know 2 weeks ago we were all having these same emotions. So, but I will say this: going down 0-2 on the road would not be a good thing for this team. All right, Steve, we're going to close this show out with one last question for you. What adjustments do the Wolves need to make in game 2?
Pace. They've got to play with better pace. They got to run. They've got to run up and down the court. We had a game this season in which we were down 24 points to the same team. We didn't have Rudy. We didn't have Randall. And we came back and it's 24-point half deficit in the second half, and we ran. Right? We have to pick up the pace. We have to use our offense as a weapon in getting them into foul trouble, right? use our offense to limit their offense. Set up the play so that we are driving at SGA. So you're driving at Chet, so that you're driving at Harkenstein and get them off the court, right? Put them into foul trouble, get them those problems, get it set up so that your switches now, you're switching SGA onto Ant, you're switching SGA onto Jaden and some of these guys start getting some of these fouls and put them into trouble, right? We're not doing that. We have to have, so number one, pace. Number two, use our offense to limit their offense. And number three, we have to make better in-game adjustments. Our in-game adjustments are garbage. OKC came out and they said, okay, the only guy on their team that's beating us is Randall. They made adjustments to take Randall out of the game. We didn't. We stood around. We tried to go to that 1-3-1 look ineffectively because all four guys are out on the perimeter and you're not getting any movement. Nothing's going on. OKC is just all hanging around, just making sure they don't get 3 cents defensive calls. You've got to run that effective 1-3-1 offense when they decide to do that. So then you put that pressure on, right? If nothing else, you have two guys down low to be able to set those screens and get those easy midi jumpers, those easy floaters, and start forcing them to come out and start guarding you from the 3-point line. And these are the types of adjustments we have to make. And finally, can we get some TSJ? A little bit of TSJ. Sir, Garcon, please, could you grate a little more TSJ on this for me, please? Keep grinding that on there. I would like some more. I'll tell you when I'm done and you can stop, okay? TSJ, get him. I was happy to see Clark County, for all of 4 minutes, 6 minutes that he was out there. They should have used it more to eat up some more of these stupid, we know SGA is going to get fouls. Put him out there and get him on it, right? Let him eat up some of these fouls against SGA. Get TSJ out there. Your team's walking the ball up the court in the fourth when you're down by 12 and you have a chance to win and they're just wandering up and down the court. Throw in a kid who's going to just run his brains out, right? He doesn't know how to play any other way except sprinting. So you got to have pace. We got to make better in-game adjustments and use our offense to defeat their offense.
Yeah, and Clark had a couple of nice rebounds, got some points in his brief time in there. So perhaps we'll see a little bit more of him. I mean, I would think at this juncture, he should have earned Finchie's trust. Before we go, one last thing I do want to bring up that still pisses me off right now is the technical against Ant. Seriously, what a joke. I mean, I think he just flung the ball and it just happened to hit. I think it actually glanced off of SGA's knee, not his nuts, but come on.
He threw it.
Yeah, he threw it, but who cares? Seriously. All right. Well, gentlemen, appreciate it. Let's hope for a better game tomorrow night. Otherwise, it's going to make for a very miserable Friday for all of us. Hopefully you have some PTO and can call in or no, hopefully they win tomorrow and even the series up, steal home court and make a series of this because last night was pretty fucking depressing. All right, gentlemen, appreciate it. Man Cave Sports out. We will see you guys soon. Hopefully with a Timberwolves victory recap on Friday or Saturday.